In this video, I'm going to share 10 tips to master Facebook ads fast and get incredible results even if you're a complete beginner. I've personally made over $20 million in sales running Facebook ads for clients and scaled my own business to over 7 figures in revenue using Facebook ads. So what I'm going to share with you is what I found works after spending and testing millions of dollars on ads so you don't have to. So with that being said, let's dive into the tips. Tip number 1 is focus on the offer. By far, the most important piece to running ads profitably is the strength of your offer. If you have a strong offer, running ads profitably is incredibly easy. Now, if you have a bad offer, you can do everything I mentioned in this video perfectly, but your ads will likely not perform. Now, in my experience, after testing hundreds of different offers on Facebook ads, there's 4 key components your offer needs to have to scale and get really good results. So let's break them down. The first thing is your offer must be in demand. So you need to be selling something that people actually want to buy. This is fairly self-explanatory, and most of you are going to check this box. The next thing is your offer must be unique. So you need to be offering something that ideally you're the only one offering or very few other people are selling. And the reason behind that is if people have seen your offer before, they're just going to price shop and they're going to go with the cheapest option, and we don't want that. The third thing is your offer must be premium. So you want to price your offer on the higher side of what your market is used to. And the reason behind that is Facebook ads is a game of economics. And if you have a cheap offer, it's almost impossible for you to be able to scale that on ads. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're selling something for $10 and you're spending $1 per click, which is very cheap. Your website would need to convert at 10% just to break even. And let me tell you, a 10% conversion rate is damn near impossible. Now, on the flip side of that, let's say you're selling something for $300 and you're still spending $1 per click. If your website converted at just 1% instead of 10%, which is a lot more realistic, you'd be at a 3x return on ad spend simply due to the economics. And that's why you want to be priced on the higher side. And the fourth thing is your offer must be riskless. There must be as little risk as possible for someone to buy your offer. And we can do this by having really strong guarantees or risk reversal, because if your offer has a lot of risk, it's going to be hard to get a complete stranger to buy your product unless you have really good branding. So now let me give you a real world example to drive this point home. So the offer that I ran in my agency, I scaled past $3,000 per day in ad spend profitably for a very long time. So let's break down the 4 components for that offer. So the first thing is, was my offer in demand? Yes, I was offering digital marketing services for businesses. Pretty much every business owner wants more customers using digital marketing. The second thing is, was my offer unique? And yes, it was, because instead of me offering Facebook ads like every other marketing agency, my offer was holistic. I offered ads, conversion rate optimization, and email marketing all together for a fraction of the cost, and very little people were doing it at the time. The third thing is, was my offer premium? And yes, I was selling something that was $5,000, which was my introductory offer. And after that, if they want to continue, it was $24,000 for the whole year. So I had good economics. And then finally, was my offer riskless? And yes, it was, because it was a pay-as-you-go model. Clients paid nothing up front to get started with us, so there was very little risk. And because my offer had those 4 components, it was very easy for me to scale that. Like, I only had to change my ad creative like 2 times over the course of a year, and it's because of the strength of my offer. So you want to make sure when you're creating your offer for your ads, rank it through those 4 things. Number 1, is your offer in demand? Number 2, is your offer unique? Number 3, is your offer priced premiumly? And number 4, does your offer has minimum risk? And if your offer ticks those 4 boxes, it's going to be much easier for you to run and scale your ads. Tip number 2 is master scroll stopping hooks. One of the biggest skills you need to have as a Facebook advertiser is your ability to create scroll stopping, attention generating hooks. And what a hook is the angle or idea of your ad that hooks in your prospect on social media and gets them interested in what you're selling. And your hook is one of the most important pieces of your ad, because if your hook sucks, nobody's going to read your ad or be interested in what you're selling. So getting good at creating hooks gives you disproportionate returns on the rest of your advertising efforts. So here's 2 exercises you can start doing today to get better at creating hooks. The first thing is search for hooks every single day. So when you're scrolling on social media, pay attention to the hooks that actually get your attention. And then what I want you to do is take a screenshot of that ad and actually study these hooks, because the more of these hooks you study, your brain is going to get better at creating these hooks. The second thing is practice creating hooks every single day. So spend 10 or 15 minutes every day finding random products in your house or that you find online and brainstorming different hooks to sell that product. For example, like I have an air freshener right here, and if I want to brainstorm hooks, one could be keep your room smelling fresh all day. I could have another hook that says, tired of unwanted odors in your room? You get the point. I'm just brainstorming different hooks to sell that product. And if you start doing this every single day, your brain is going to get better and better at creating these scroll stopping hooks. And this is going to be a huge advantage when you're creating your Facebook ads. Tip number 3 is test rapidly. If you want to find winning ads faster, test fast and fail fast so you can figure out what works. One of the biggest mistakes I made when I first started running ads is I would try to create the perfect ad. So I'd spend weeks trying to create one ad, and when I would launch that ad and it didn't work, I would feel really discouraged, and now I would lose a bunch of time and I wasn't making any money. So once I caught on that this strategy wasn't working, I changed my approach to start testing ads very quickly. So I started pumping out very simple image and video ads that I could test to see what hooks and message would resonate. And within a week of me doing this rapid testing approach, I found one video ad that I was able to scale past $100,000 per month. And that's all because I was testing rapidly. So if you want to find winning ads faster, adopt the mindset of testing rapidly instead of having perfectionism and spending weeks to draft out one ad. And if you do this, you're going to find winning ads a whole lot faster. Tip number 4 is know your targets. So before you launch any ad campaign, you need to know what your target cost per acquisition is and what metrics are required to make that possible. Because if you launch your campaigns without knowing your targets, you're going in blind, and that's a recipe for losing money. So let me give you an example of this. Let's say I'm selling gym equipment. The first thing I need to do is set my target cost per acquisition, which is how much I'm willing to spend to get a customer. So let's say in this example, I'm willing to spend $100. The next step is I need to know the metrics that are required to get that $100 cost per acquisition. So let's say my targets are to get a $2 cost per click and a 2% conversion rate on my website. Because with those metrics, if I have a $2 cost per click for me to get 100 clicks, I'm spending $200. And if my website converts at 2%, which is 2 out of 100 people who visit it, then I'm going to hit my $100 cost per acquisition. So now I know my targets before I launch. So when I launch my campaigns, I can see how close am I to my targets. I can see, okay, am I near my cost per click targets? Am I near my conversion rate targets? And if I'm not, I can optimize them accordingly. So what you want to do before you launch any campaign is step number 1, figure out what your target cost per acquisition is, and then reverse engineer what metrics need to happen to make that possible. And when you do that, you're going to have so much more clarity when you're launching your ads. It's going to be much easier for you to start hitting your targets. All right, quick little break. If you've been enjoying these lessons and you want 20 plus free courses and trainings on Facebook ads, copywriting, and conversion rate optimization, go to marketersplaybook.io. That's marketersplaybook.io, or go to the first pinned comment below, and all you have to do is put in your email address, and I'm going to send you over 20 free marketing courses and trainings that I've used to generate millions of dollars in sales, all for free. So go check that out. And with that being said, let's dive back into the lessons. Tip number 5, keep your ad copy simple and straight to the point. So when I analyzed my top performing ads, I realized the ad copy had 2 things in common. Number 1, it was easy to read. And number 2, it was straight to the point with no fluff. So let's break these down, starting with it was easy to read. And what I mean by that is the copy was written at or below a 5th grade reading level, and the copy was written like you would talk to a friend. It wasn't complex, it didn't have a lot of business speak in it, it sounded very friendly. And when it meets that criteria, a lot more people are going to read your ad because it's not confusing and complicated. And now the second thing, when I say it's straight to the point, it means the ad copy got the message of the ad across in the simplest way possible without having extra words or sentences that didn't need to be there. Because if your ad copy has a lot of fluff and filler, again, you're going to lose out on people reading your ad. So whenever you're writing an ad, make sure that number one, it's written at or below 5th grade reading level. And all you have to do that is take your ad copy and put it into a grade level checker. There's a bunch of free tools to do this. And then you can see what grade level your ad copy is at, and make sure your ad copy is written like you're talking to a friend. And then when you're editing your ad copy, make sure it's as simple as possible. There's not a lot of words or fillers that don't need to be there. And if you do this, your ads are going to perform much better and far more people are going to click on them. Tip number 6, keep landing pages simple and congruent. And this is super important. You want to make sure the landing page you're sending people to after they click on your ad is number one, as simple as possible for the action you want the reader to take, and number two, congruent with the messaging they just saw on the ad. So let's say, for example, I'm a massage clinic and I'm advertising a $97 new patient special, and my goal is to send them to a landing page where I can collect their contact information for them to become a lead so I can follow up with them and turn them into a customer. So the first thing I want to make sure I do is to keep my landing page as simple as possible for the action I want them to take, which in this case is to become a lead. So what I want on this landing page is probably a really good headline, a box for them to put in their contact information, and maybe some bullet points. That's it. What I don't want to have is a random About Us section, a bunch of different images and videos, because that distracts the reader from the action we want them to take, which is becoming a lead. And the second thing is we want to make sure the landing page is congruent with the copy they just saw in the ad. So if they're clicking on an ad for a $97 new patient special, we want to make sure the first thing on the landing page they see above the fold before they start scrolling down is something that says, enter your contact information to claim the $97 new patient special right away, because then that way when people enter the landing page, they know this is what they clicked on. If they click on your landing page and they don't see that anywhere, they're going to be confused and your conversions are going to tank. I see this all the time. So you want to make sure whenever you're creating landing pages, number one, keep it as simple as possible for the action you want the reader to take. And number two, it's congruent with the copy they saw on the ad. And if you do this, your conversions are going to be much better. Tip number 7 is maximize follow-up. And make sure to pay attention to this, because if you don't understand this, your ad results are going to suffer. So most people who click on your ads are not going to convert. That's normal. That's part of the process. For example, in e-commerce, a good conversion rate is like 3%, meaning 97% of people who visit the website are not going to convert. So what we need to make sure we have in place is strong follow-up systems that stay on top of all the leads and traffic that don't convert and push them back to become a customer. And by doing this, our overall conversion rates are massively going to increase. So going back to this e-commerce example, we'd want to make sure we have an exit pop on the website that pops up if someone tries to leave the website to save the sale. We'd also want to make sure we have strong email and SMS follow-up systems that stay on top of everyone who abandoned cart or gave us their contact information. We'd want to make sure we have retargeting ads set up. And by doing these things, now we're staying on top of this big pool of traffic that's not converting, and this is going to help us maximize our overall conversions. So what you want to do in your sales process when you're launching ads is look at all the potential areas that people can drop off and not convert. And then you want to fill those spots with strong follow-up systems, whether that's email follow-up, retargeting ads, SMS follow-up, whatever it takes. The more follow-up you put in, the higher chance you have of your ads converting. And we see this at the highest level. Even these 7- and 8-figure brands we work with, typically their follow-up is a big area we have to improve. So make sure to dial in your follow-up and your results are going to increase because of that. Tip number 8 is have accurate tracking. And this is super important because if you don't have accurate tracking set up on your ads, you're not going to know what the performance of your ad campaigns are, and you're going to be running in blind. And because of that, you're not going to make the right decisions. And when you're not making the right decisions, your Facebook ad results are going to suffer. So here's what I recommend you do. If you're spending more than $1,000 per day on Facebook ads, invest in a tracking software like Hyros or Triple Whale, which is going to allow you to accurately track your ad results. Because as you know, the tracking on Facebook is usually not super accurate. So by investing in one of these softwares, you're going to know for sure the results from your campaigns, and it's a very easy ROI. Now, if you're spending less than $1,000 per day on your campaigns, here's what I recommend you do. Number 1, make sure you have your pixel and conversion events set up properly, and you have UTMs tracking all of your ad campaigns. And if you want to take it one step further, you can create a specific funnel and landing page specifically for your ads. So then that way, you know, any traffic leads and customers that come in from that funnel is specifically from your advertising efforts. It's not getting money from other sources. And if you do that, you're going to have as accurate tracking as you can. So that's what I recommend to have that accurate tracking. Tip number 9 9 is act decisively when things are working. So when you have ad campaigns that are performing well, you want to act decisively and put more budget into them to start scaling them up. You don't want to be passive and afraid to put more budget in. If you're always passive, you're not going to win big with Facebook ads. The power of Facebook ads is you can scale things up very quickly and make a shit ton of money in a short time period. So let me give you a perfect example of that. When I first started running ads for my agency, a few months in, I was spending about $300 per day on my own offer and making back roughly $1,500 per day in sales, which wasn't bad. So I made the decision to start scaling things up. So I hired 2 extra sales reps. And when I hired those 2 sales reps, I then quickly realized, shit, I have to fill up their calendars as well. And when I started projecting things out, I realized I'd have to scale my ad spend from $300 per day to over $1,000 per day in ad spend, which at the time was a lot of money for me because I'd have to lose that $1,000 every single day first before I would see it coming back because I wasn't sure if those sales reps would be able to close those leads. But I said, fuck it, let's just act decisively and see what happens because I had some historical data that these campaigns were performing well. Now, within a week of me scaling my budgets from $300 per day to over $1,000 per day in ad spend, my sales went from $1,500 per day in sales to over $3,000 per day in sales in less than a week. So I doubled my business in a week just by acting decisively on Facebook ads. So the key lesson here is when you're running ads and you have campaigns that are performing well, act decisively and don't be afraid to scale them up. I'm not saying be irresponsible and put all of your money in, but don't be afraid to put your money in and win big. And finally, tip number 10 is act logically when things aren't performing. Because if you're running Facebook ads, at some point, you're gonna launch a campaign that doesn't perform, or your existing campaigns that are performing well are gonna drop in performance. This happens to everybody. And when this happens, the worst thing you can do is panic and let your emotions get in the way and just start changing everything at once. If you do this, your results are gonna suffer. Instead, what you wanna do when your performance drops is you wanna slow down, then look at the data, see what variable is off, and fix it accordingly. Because in my experience, after working with hundreds of different ad accounts, very rarely is an entire campaign broken. Usually it's just 1, maybe 2 variables that need to be fixed to get things back on track. And I'll give you a real world example of this. So one of our clients that we manage, they're a relatively big brand, and they do over $100,000 per day in sales. And what happened recently is their sales dropped by over 30%. So they were losing over $30,000 per day in sales out of nowhere. And the owner started panicking, and I don't blame him. Now, once we got the data, what our team did is we slowed down and we looked at the data. And when we analyzed all the data, we realized the big variable that dropped is their website conversion rate really started tanking. So now that we knew the variable that was isolated was their website conversion rate, we audited the website. And when we audited the website, what we found is their PayPal checkout button was broken. So anyone who tried to process an order using PayPal wouldn't be able to process their order because it was broken. And at the time, PayPal orders were roughly 30% of their sales. So now we knew what the problem was. All we had to do was tell their tech guy to fix the PayPal button so it would work again. And the moment we did that, they were back to over $100,000 per day in sales. So this is a perfect example of this because if we panicked and we just started changing everything at once, that would be the worst thing to make because everything was working. The only variable was off was their PayPal Express button on their website. And once we fixed that, things were working again. So the key lesson here is when your campaigns stop working, slow down, act logically, look at the data to find out what variable is off, and fix it accordingly. And if you do that, running ads is going to be a whole lot less stressful and you're going to get better results. So those are my 10 tips to master Facebook ads, and I hope you found them helpful. Now, if you want to get over 20 plus free marketing courses and trainings on copywriting, Facebook ads, and conversion rate optimization, go to marketersplaybook.io. That's marketersplaybook.io, or go to the pinned comment in the description below. And all you have to do is put in your email address and I'll send you over 20 free courses and trainings that I've used to generate millions of dollars in sales, all for free. So go to marketersplaybook.io, put in your email, and I'll send them your way.